I'm dishing with musicians. I'm dishing with musicians. A talk show about history. I'm dishing with musicians. I'm dishing with musicians. Let's take a stroll down music history.
Oh my gosh, that guitar lick is just something I created in 5 seconds. Hey everybody, good evening. How's it going? Mike Semrod here with Dishin with Musicians, that famed, not so much theme song that we've created for this talk show that's getting some notoriety. My gosh, people are listening to it. This is great. Tonight's guest is unbelievable, and I'm so just overwhelmed. I'm overwhelmed this evening. I hope I can get all my questions out the way that I intended because the guy is a treasure trove. I think I even sort of said that to him earlier. It's a treasure trove of history, and it's the mileage and the years and the magic that this guy's created is unbelievable. And I'm just so excited I got him on the show tonight. That he was so kind to say yes to this after seeing a few episodes. I think maybe I persuaded him. I don't know, but I'm going to find out why he said yes. But I don't want to waste any more time because I want to get him on as soon as possible. I want to first of all thank you to the sponsors, Red Rebel Media, of course, for providing the gear, Nebraska Performing Arts Hall of Fame, and KZUM radio station here in town, 89.3 FM. These are all great organizations. Check them out. And we're going to be doing some more great stuff with the Hall of Fame soon. But speaking of Hall of Fame, the next guy is involved with the Hall of Fame. So I can't wait to talk to him about that as well. Without further ado, I hope you did your homework. If you don't know who this is, I'm sorry, but you'll find out now. And that's why we're doing this show. These are people that are iconic in the industry. They mean so much. And they hold secrets. They hold the history to it all. And they're carrying it through and through, which is amazing, that he's still in the industry and doing some great things. Hit my last guest, Deke, him and Deke have the most fun Facebook pages to follow. The posts are all historical and just unbelievable. And I just get intertwined in them and so deep into what they're talking about. And I end up going down rabbit holes with everything they reference, which is really kick-ass to me. And I hope it is to you. So here he is, without further ado, Smilin Jay Mcdowell in the house. There he is. What's up, Jay? How you doing, buddy?
Good evening. How you been?
Good, man. Things are great. Great. Thank you so much for being here on Dishin with Musicians.
It's my pleasure.
Yeah, episode 15. I can't believe it.
Wow.
Yeah, we started this during the pandemic, and I'm just keeping it going because people are tuning in, listening to the podcast, and
yeah,
it's cool. It's cool, man. I can't thank you enough for being here.
Oh, my pleasure.
So, yeah, and you got the upright bass in the background just in case you need to smack your computer if it goes awry. That's great.
That's right.
I don't even know where to start with a guy like you, because not only do you have this, incredible history, but you're doing great things still. And it's, I hope to tap into a little bit of everything, but first of all, let me bring up this awesome photo. And I just want to show people this great photo I found. And this is Jay Mcdowell, Smilin Jay. I don't know what year do you think this was?
1994, I'm going to say.
94?
That was in Vogue magazine, Italian Vogue magazine.
That was in an Italian Vogue magazine. Right on, man.
Full page. I remember my mom screamed when she saw that. She
screamed.
Very excited, yes.
She was excited. Oh, man. Her boy's making it. That's incredible.
A guy named Mark Abramson was the photographer on that, and that was taken at Roberts. And
right on. Okay.
I looked like I could use a sandwich or two in that picture.
Right. Well, you're a slender fella. I mean, from all the videos I've been watching and over the years, even seeing some of the stuff from BR5-49. You're kind of the tall, lanky fella on the upright bass.
Yeah. And there's the irony right there, right in black and white. I'm a Gretsch guitarist. There's a G logo for Gretsch guitars.
I noticed that.
And then BR5-49 needed an upright bass player, so I got an upright bass. And I still play Gretsch guitars, and I still love Gretsch guitars.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
That's a lesson for people out there. You get a tattoo, and then all of a sudden, things change. But
life can take a left turn. And not only that, but your father was a luthier.
My father is, well, he's many things, but he
worked for Guild.
He worked with Guild.
Okay.
He wasn't a full-time employee there, no. But
okay.
He worked with them when they were working on certain projects. So one really fun memory I had as a child, we went up to Rhode Island and we got to go through the Guild plant.
Oh, cool.
Tour that. And it was really exciting to kind of see behind the scenes, behind the curtain a little bit there. And,
oh, for sure, man. For sure. Well, I'm a big Guild player. I love Guild guitars. Yeah.
Guild guitars are great. And I'm a big fan of Guilds as well. And so that was a really special experience. And I'm really thankful I was old enough to appreciate it too. I was probably 14 or 15 years old maybe. And, but already playing guitar and really appreciated it and got to see all the wood shop and where they sprayed them and, the whole process. So that was a really cool thing. So.
Wow, that's incredible, man. That is super cool. Keep an eye out for a Guild X550. I'm looking for one. Okay. Yes, those are rare. That's the Dave Gonzalez model from the Paladins. He plays that.
We'll call up Dave. Let's get his.
Yeah, we'll get one of his. I'm sure he's got at least two.
He probably has a couple. Yeah, but he does.
Well, they were made for, like, they put out their own line and everything. But I'm going to scroll down from this picture because it's got some great history about you and everything. But I guess we can get started, talking a little bit about your upbringing, I guess. I always like to ask people on the stream, when they got started. And we'll jump into the BR5-49 thing here in a second.
Sure.
But how did your love of music begin?
My parents, like most people, is what I heard growing up around the house. My father was really into instrumental rock and roll, 50s rock and roll.
Nice.
Heard a lot of that growing up. Duane Eddy, especially, Chet Atkins, Les Paul, just a lot of surf instrumental stuff. And then country music as well. Mm-hmm. And ironically, again, I would make fun of some of the country songs, some of the 70s country that was just 1-5, 1-5.
Oh, sure. Oh, yeah.
Repetitive bass line. Boom, boom,
sure.
boom, boom.
Yeah.
And then years later, my father brought up to me that, you make a living going boom, 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 so.
Yes.
It came around on me. But so, yeah, really exposed to a lot of different types of music through my parents. And they were great at purposely turning me on to different things. And even stuff that they weren't necessarily always listening to, they would kind of make a point of pointing out different types of music. This is this type of music. And so I could kind of get a base to start with and a foundation.
Yeah.
So then I remember strumming an acoustic guitar. I was probably 5 or 6 years old when I first started getting my little mind around 3 chords.
Yep.
The fact that, I can do this. I remember knowing a few chords and being so excited, like I had opened some kind of treasure chest.
Yeah, yeah.
And at the same time realizing, well, there's other songs that don't use just these 3 chords and going on there,
Right.
So the idea that, I guess that's true with any musical instrument. It's like you unlock layers and you connect dots and it comes together gradually. It's not just like, all of a sudden I can play. Mm-hmm. You discover, you make your own discoveries and people show you things and you find things out and you have to go your own path. And so my first aha moment was, these 3 chords make up a whole lot of songs. Sometimes even just instrumental songs, but definitely Buddy Holly songs was a great place to start because they were relatively simple. Not every Buddy Holly song is just 3 chords, but you can get a long way with just 3 chords with Buddy Holly music. And so that's a definite memory of discovery and getting started, was putting that together. And then
what was the one chord that really just changed everything? Do you have, because I have one.
When this was a while later, discovering the 2. So classic country stuff where you got these 3 chords and then there's this extra chord, and what's going on with that, and then finding out, well, it's a 2 chord, and that's the way it's used is so unique, and it unlocks this. Oh, that's that. And
totally, man. That's a good one. That's
that was a big aha moment as well.
Yeah, mine was the E minor, and I'll tell you, you know, just the E minor chord in general, because probably one of my first chords was the G and C, and and then D. Though that's usually the first pattern.
Yeah.
For most guitar players, but when I learned E minor, I was like, whoa, it's dark.
Right. It opens up on it's a new street to go down.
Yeah. It was like a whole nother thing.
But
yes, I remember the 2 chord as well. That because playing country music and honky tonk, that's definitely a big one for sure.
Yeah. And another memory I have was getting some sheet music of Beatles songs.
Oh yeah.
And I didn't know enough. I knew basic chords, major chords, a few minors, but the fact that if it said C sharp minor 7, I would process that in my brain like, okay, C. I know how to play C. Now, of course, when you play a C chord and it's calling for C sharp minor 7,
totally different.
You're not even in the same universe.
No.
So there were certain Beatles songs that I would play, and it's like, this sounds amazing. This I can keep up and I can go with it. And then there were other Beatles songs I would be kind of following the sheet music and be like, this sounds terrible. But
well, to be honest, Beatles weren't necessarily 1-4-5-y. I mean, they were kind of different. Like I remember getting actually. My father-in-law gave me a Beatles book early on, and I was like maybe 19 or 20 years old, and just kind of I started out as a drummer, and then I went to guitar later. But man, the Beatles stuff's not easy.
Some intricate stuff going on.
But that's why it was so great to learn Beatles stuff, right? Because you learned all those weird chords,
right? And it still sounds, I think, just to the normal listener, it still sounds accessible and simple. But when you start strumming and picking it apart, you realize, it's pretty complex. They've got a lot going on there. So
for sure, man.
Yeah, I appreciated that about them for sure.
Yeah, no doubt. So just to remind everybody listening, make sure to comment in whatever platform you're on. If you're on YouTube or Facebook or whatever you're on, please comment in, because we can get questions delivered directly to Smilin Jay. So please do that. I know a lot of fans out there that were excited for this stream. So please, by all means. Again, we've got so much crazy stuff to talk about. So that took you as a guitar player, that kind of, you kind of, did you end up in Nashville, or where did you come from?
Northern Indiana.
Northern Indiana. Okay.
Yeah, I moved down here in 1992 and got in a band playing guitar, and met up with these guys that were of a similar mindset. And then we were called Hellbilly. And we played around the Southeast, and, got a van and got in the, just booked clubs and just did it ourselves, and pretty much weekends. We pretty much go out every weekend.
Nice.
And then it was at one of those shows, Chuck Mead came and saw us.
At a
club, and I met up with him. He had just moved to Nashville, and we hit it off musically and started hanging out. And he was just starting to hang out down on Lower Broadway there. And
this was like 93, 94.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd been down to Lower Broadway. It was pretty run down and scary.
That's what I heard at that time.
Yeah.
Why was that, do you think?
Well, the Grand Ole Opry had left the Ryman in 74.
Okay.
And over the next few years after that, the businesses kind of fell by the wayside, and that little part of town was just peep shows and adult bookstores and
some
little honky tonks. But even the honky tonks were just not much going on. There was, you know, it was kind of a feeling when you walked in, they were kind of like, who are you? Like, you're not from around, you know, like you're not one of the regulars that are here.
Yeah.
So it wasn't inviting at all. And with all the history of that little strip and that part of town,
yeah,
I wanted it to be this inviting, amazing place. And
of course.
it wasn't. And Chuck had started going down there, and he was telling me about it and how great it was. And I was like, well, I've been down there and I did not enjoy it. It wasn't great to me.
Yeah.
So he, going down there with him, I kind of saw it through his eyes, and
okay.
And he was excited by it and talking about the history like I was, but again, he was, you know, he was looking at it like, no, this, and I'm such an optimist. It's funny when I even hear myself say that. Like I'm usually the guy in the group saying, hey, this is cool, you know. And
yeah.
But, anyway, that was a kind of a reawakening in myself that this place is cool. Nice. And so I just started going down there and hanging out, and then Chuck met Gary and they started singing together, and I was just, you know, I'm still with another band, so I was just going down there to drink and hang out.
Just to hang. Now what happened? What was the Ryman like at this time?
The Ryman was boarded up and falling apart. And
so it was like no mas. They were like done.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I hate to say this, but in my mind, I was like, they should tear it down.
Really? Oh,
it was awful. There were times when, you know, like I could pull back, you know, we'd be out drinking late at night and I could pull back the plywood that was boarded it up, and, you know, absolutely shouldn't have been in there, but we would sneak in there late at night, and you could just see the sky. Like the roof was falling in and water was pouring everywhere. It was really in bad shape. It was,
wow.
So I'm so thankful that they saved that. And
for those that don't know, what the Ryman was the home of the Grand Ole Opry. I mean, that was it. That was the spot.
It's the mother church of country music.
Absolutely. That's the place.
Yeah. And before that, it was a church and used, you know, for, I guess, named after Thomas Ryman. And they, you know, it's there's more to the history of it than just the Grand Ole Opry, but if it was only the Grand Ole Opry, that's enough. But gosh,
yeah,
who's the escape artist, the famous escape? Houdini.
Oh, Houdini, yeah,
appeared there, and the Three Stooges.
Oh yeah, for sure.
There, and it was just, you know, like there's all this great. Caruso performed there, all this great history, let alone Roy Acuff and Minnie Pearl and Hank Snow and Elvis, you know, and all these people.
That's where it all began, man. I mean, so from 70, you said 74.
So after 74, the businesses kind of
downtown. Yeah.
Things started to slide. This was, you know, 20 years later, I'd show up and, you know, early 90s and things are seedy and crazy. But like Chuck said, it was wide open. Like, we could do whatever we wanted to, you know, even as a patron, just hanging out and drinking. It was just, it had this kind of, I don't know, the punk rock kids started showing up, and it was just it was weird, you know, and so it had character out the wazoo. And so all these kids start hanging out there, and Chuck and Gary are playing, and it's funky and weird and great. And it became this thing where you go to, you know, there's so many people play music in Nashville. You play your show, or you go to the show that's happening that night. Afterwards, we're all going to meet up down at Roberts. And so, you know,
so that
was a late night thing.
Okay.
So, you know, the touring bands that came through, you know, like if everybody was going to see Primus or whatever, you know, whoever was coming through, and, you know, L7's playing at the big place down the road. Let's meet up at Roberts afterwards. And then those guys would play till 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. And so that became the norm.
So Chuck had a gig at Roberts already established.
Yeah. So,
okay.
Yeah. Chuck and Gary got together and started.
Okay. Now, were they doing shows there? Like, I know the history of that spot is pretty thick. How long were they playing there?
Well, it evolved naturally. They started in towards the end of '93, I believe.
Okay.
And, I didn't join until 95 or beginning of 95.
But
So,
Roberts was a venue, though. I mean, they had music in the 80s as well, and like into the 90s, or
yeah, well, it was a clothing store.
Yep, I
And
knew.
because there were other honky tonks with live music, I think Robert was like, let's have a band play in the front window there, and just to get the people that are drinking to come in.
Okay.
It was just kind of to, bait to lure people in. Now, typically what they would do is have a single songwriter, just a single.
Okay.
A guy with a acoustic guitar and songwriter, and that's typically what was the norm. And Robert was like, let's put together a band. And so Gary and Chuck got together, and then they had an electric bass player. They had a saxophone player.
Oh, wow.
And they had typically a different drummer. Almost every night they had a different drummer. So there were some nights that the drummer was great and it was amazing. And there were some nights the drummer wasn't very good. And
oh, wow. Okay.
It was that old thing. You're only as good as your drummer.
Yep.
And,
it's true.
So Chuck got his old friend Shaw from back in Lawrence, Kansas to move to Nashville and be the permanent drummer.
Okay.
When that happened, it really solidified everything. All of a sudden it was like, oh, they're a band and it's good. And they didn't have a name. They just were the house band at Roberts.
Band at Roberts. Yeah.
We just called them the boys. Like there's the guys at Roberts.
And they had a bar, right? They served liquor at that point?
Early on, they didn't. And Robert started, we would sneak drinks in from the other clubs that were selling beers. We'd sneak a beer in.
Yeah.
And kind of sneak drinks. And at first, Robert had a cooler by the front door, and he would sell RC Cola out of a cooler.
Wow.
And shortly after that, it didn't seem like, but a week or two later, he was selling PBR out of that cooler.
Okay.
And, I don't know the legality of that. If I know there's big talk down there about you got to have, there's a beer license, there's a liquor license, and all that stuff.
Sure.
Well, it went from selling PBRs out of a little cooler to having kind of an actual physical bar, selling them from behind the bar.
Yeah.
And then they had a couple different types of beer. And then he got a liquor license, but to have a liquor license, you had to serve food. So then he put a grill in.
Okay.
And so this all just evolved organically. Like the band evolved organically, Roberts evolved organically. And suddenly it was this hip bar, nightclub, and where it started as just a clothing store that had a band in the window.
Yeah.
And suddenly now they're serving food and there's drinks, and Robert really was forward thinking, and it really took off.
Wow.
And
how many nights a week were you guys playing?
Well, this is before I joined them still.
Okay.
They were playing Wednesday through Saturday.
Okay.
And Chuck and Shaw did a duo on Sunday and Monday at Tootsie's, which is 3 doors away.
Yep. Okay.
So, so I would go, any night I could get down there, I would go down there and hang out, whether it was at Roberts with those guys playing or Tootsie's with Chuck and Shaw. And again, with my band playing, we were gone most weekends too. So,
were you sitting in at all at that point? Did they?
Yeah, occasionally.
Okay.
I'd do a song here and there, but
just as a buddy. Yeah.
And so they had a falling out with the sax player, which as a fan, I was really sad about, because that made them totally unique. This hillbilly band with a sax player.
Yeah.
They would do the kind of the jump swing stuff. It just brought it alive, and they could do the Louis Jordan kind of stuff, and it really worked. But as far as personalities and stuff, they just didn't click, and it wasn't working out. So they got rid of them. So again, from my point of view, it was terrible when they got rid of the sax player.
Yeah.
From their point of view, it was liberating, and it freed them up, and it was a good thing. But so at that point, they had been trying to get their electric bass player to get an upright bass. And he was not receptive. He'd played electric bass his whole career, and as I can attest, it hurts your hands to play upright bass. It's a real physical commitment.
It is.
So he resisted, and so they, just as a friend, they came to me asking if I knew anybody that played upright bass, and they had talked to a couple guys that were good upright bass players, Mark Winchester and Dave Rowe and Preston Rumbaugh, the few of the guys around town that were serious upright bass players. But they already had good gigs, and the idea of coming to play for a tip jar in this rundown part of town was just not, they weren't going for that.
Is that how it rolled? I'm curious. I'm just, that's personal business, but it's curious. It was a tip jar only.
Going on. Yeah. They liked what was going on musically, but they had real gigs. Mark Winchester played with Emmylou Harris, and Dave Rowe played with Johnny Cash.
Yeah.
And the deal was with those, they were on retainer, so they were making real money.
Yeah.
They weren't working all the time because those people didn't tour all the time. So they were around, and they could have made it work time wise, but they were looking at like, no, we're not going to come down there and play for tips,
Yeah.
So as they were kind of looking for an upright player, one night they were just like, what about you, Jay? Why don't you do it? And I guess I just had enough drinks in me. I was like, yeah, okay, I'll do it.
Yes.
Yay, whiskey.
Yes. That gets you makes you big changes about. Yeah. So you had no permanent gig, or were you playing as a musician solely at this point?
Yeah, I was a guitar player in Hellbilly. And
so you were still doing that. So that was your full-time gig. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that was tough, because then I was like, okay, if I'm gonna do this, I gotta do it. And I'm gonna be playing with BR5-49. I can't be going out of town with this other band. And so I gave them, my notice that I was leaving that band, and I joined BR5-49. Now, by this time they had come up with the name, and they were known as BR5-49. And so I came in with like best possible, they'd been through the real early stages of trying to get started, and, as far as tips and making $8 a night, that kind of thing. By the time I joined, they had established themselves and had a scene going on, and it was real. So
it was a livable wage.
I was really lucky. Probably
a livable wage at that point.
Yeah, we did really well, and it was so exciting because musically it was exciting. The people that were coming down when they had been reaching out to this guy named Donnie Herron, who played all these instruments, and he was in another band, and he always told them, if you get an upright bass player, I'm in. And so that was another reason they were pushing to get an upright bass player. So when I agreed and got the upright bass, Donnie quit his band, and they were on the road, and he gave him his 2-week notice or whatever it was.
Wow.
So April 1st, 1995 was the first night we all played together.
Really? As that lineup?
As that group, of those 5 guys. And that night, I tell you, it was like a rocket ship, man. It took
You felt it.
Yeah. Oh my God. It was amazing. I can't even describe how amazing it was. And we had been playing as a 4-piece without Donnie for that, about 8 weeks that I joined. So I'm brand new to upright bass. I knew bass, I knew the theory, I knew the songs, I knew the material. But physically playing an upright bass, that was a whole new thing to me. So the chemistry was so good. The guys in the band kept saying, when Donnie gets here, you're not going to believe it. Donnie's an amazing musician, which he is.
Yeah.
And, it wasn't my place to say, because I'm the new guy, but I'm in the back of my mind thinking, well, he's going to come in and it's going to throw off this great chemistry we have right now. But I was completely wrong. When he came in, it was the 5th piece that was missing. He filled in all the holes that were missing, and fiddle and steel and mandolin and just
that's it.
Hillbilly music. It was amazing. Yeah.
Wow. The pieces all came to be.
Yeah. So we knew, and again, I couldn't see that it was going to be any great success other than we're going to play at this little club and have the time of our lives. That was the goal. We're doing it. We're successful right here, and people were having a blast, and everybody was. My favorite thing about that whole time was it was all ages. It was all walks of life. It was all types. It was everybody coming into Roberts. It wasn't, you couldn't peg the type of person that was coming in. It was just people. And it was people that said, "Oh, I got to bring my parents in. They would love this. I got to bring my grandparents in. They love this kind of music.
Yeah.
I got to bring my kids in. They love this too." And so seeing this kind of mix of generations and this cross-pollination of all these people was amazing. And
so like then, and really my experience with Roberts now, I've visited a few times to Roberts and I just love it. Mm-hmm. The vibe I get, and it's truth. I mean, that's one of the very few clubs left playing the old good stuff, is how some might say it, right?
Yeah,
but there's the whole mainstream country versus old stuff, like the real outlaw country, and that argument's kind of old and drug out. But my perception of it was, yeah, they're still playing the old cool stuff. Is that the way it was when you guys did it as well?
Yeah. Well,
so was there clubs around you that were doing the more 90s mainstream country?
No, the clubs around the reason Robert stood out was the clubs around it were doing like singer-songwriter. This is my song, trying to get their songs pitched.
Oh, I see.
Get their songs cut. So the fact that we were a band playing that kind of stuff. Now, again, it was us playing our parents' era music and stuff that we grew up on, but we were young kids doing it, so I think it added a spark to it that it was
right.
At that time you could go see Merle Haggard in concert and you could go see Waylon Jennings, and they were amazing, but they weren't in their 20s anymore.
Right.
So with us coming along and doing that kind of music, it was exciting to the old timers that knew it from when it was new. And it was exciting to the kids that, well, I've never heard this before. What is this? And to expose them to some of that cool old music. I heard it every day. I heard people say, I don't like country music, but I like you guys.
Interesting.
And I'd say, well, then you probably like country music. There's a lot of good stuff out there. There's a lot of, that's like saying rock and roll. What is rock and roll? It's a lot of stuff to a lot of people.
Yeah, right.
But there's good types of music in every genre, and you just got to find it and be exposed to the right stuff.
Yeah, totally. I agree with that. And so during this time period, you guys had this blaze about you, and you could tell something special was brewing. Did people come in that of notoriety, were like celebrities, like country, like established country singers? Did they come in and see this?
Yeah. So
okay,
just as having a good time. But yeah, Rodney Crowell would come down. Marty Stewart was there pretty regularly.
Really? Okay.
I remember, Trisha Yearwood coming in and things like that. It was exciting. I'll tell you, really early on, before I was in the band, it was a really big deal when Ronnie Dawson came in. The rock singer.
Yeah.
And again, he's not a superstar name, but in our circle, oh my gosh, Ronnie Dawson came to Roberts.
Yeah. Okay. So it just blew you all back. Yeah. Right.
At the table with us and just had a beer and enjoyed the music. And
wow.
So that was really neat. The very first night that I played with Chuck and Shaw, the first night I played with them was at Tootsie's on one of their duo nights.
Okay.
Joe Ely was in the audience. So that was a little added pressure for me. I was like, oh great, I got to play in front of Joe Ely. But,
my gosh.
Yeah, there was. So
you had some like brushes with people of notoriety. Yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah. And, I remember Michael Moore, the filmmaker.
Oh yeah.
Came in. He was in town for something, and he came a couple nights in a row and hung out.
Sweet. Yeah.
Just so people like that, when there were people in town and somebody would give them the word, oh, you got to go down to Lower Broadway and see what's going on. And so that was a lot of fun. And then, but it was interesting because as much of a scene was happening and things were going on, it was great. We still didn't have this. I didn't have this realistic expectation of even getting a record deal. It was too outside the box. It wasn't what was happening. It didn't make sense that anything would when we talked to labels, they would say, well, you can't play that kind of music. We'd have to, get you moderned up. And
oh, really?
Oh, wow. That way, people don't dress that way, and you can't you can't be called BR5-49. That's, that doesn't
Yeah.
fly. And so like we had every excuse why we couldn't be putting out a record.
Yet it was happening in front of people successfully.
Yeah. And
crazy.
The thing about it was they were right. They were right in the sense of like, I'm glad it was so far away from what they told us they wanted. If we were close to what they wanted, we would have been like, oh yeah, we can change and do this. And
sure.
do what we want. We were so far away from it that we were just like, well, this is what we do. This is the way we dress. This is the way we sing. We can't fit into that round hole. We're just going to be ourselves. And that freed us up. That was liberating for us to just do what we did.
Nice. Yeah.
And we just, okay, well, we can make a living. We're going to play at Roberts. If nothing else happens, we're happy.
Yeah.
And we're playing what we love, and we're doing our own music as well. And so
incredible.
That all changed one night.
So I read about this. So this is exciting. Yeah.
Timothy White from Billboard magazine came down to see what was going on. So another band called Greg Gehring was playing at Tootsie's in the back room and doing a similar thing. Great musicians. Kenny Vaughn playing guitar, and
oh wow, geez,
Preston Rumbaugh playing bass, and so they had this same kind of scene happening right down the street, and so it was this kind of revival thing happening, and it was taken off, and so Timothy White comes in and had been drinking. He was having a great time, and I remember not like when he approached the stage. I drink. We've established that already, but I remember thinking like, oh, I'm not gonna, he's had a few too many, and I'm not gonna bother with him, kind of thing. And Paul Deacon of the Mavericks, the drummer,
sure.
walked up behind him, and he got our attention, and he was like, talk to this guy, kind of mouthed the words. He knew who he was, and that he should talk to us.
Nice.
And the Mavericks were coming down all the time. They were regulars down there when they weren't on the road, and they were really supportive and helping us out. And so we're talking to Timothy White. He says, this is amazing. People need to know about this, what's going on here. And I'm going to do a feature on the front page of Billboard. We're going to
just told you that straight up.
And I'm thinking, you're going to wake up tomorrow and not even remember this. I didn't have faith, like, oh, this is.
Yeah.
So Jim Bessman was assigned to do a feature, and he interviewed us the next Monday morning. We went down to the Billboard offices here in Music Row, and I remember him talking to us, being like, you guys don't, he understood what was happening at Roberts and Lower Broadway, but he's like, you don't have a record out. You like, there's no story here. He was struggling to figure out what to write about, kind of. And so he just wrote about our influences and how we were approaching it and what we were doing, and kind of why we didn't fit into the mainstream, and why we stood out. And
you said he came down to Roberts and interviewed you guys. Is that
right?
He
was there with Timothy.
Okay.
And Timothy sent us, Timothy assigned him to do the story. We went to the Billboard offices on Music Row, like Monday morning at 10 a.m. We went there.
Oh my gosh.
Did the interview. And so the following week, Billboard comes out. We're on the cover.
Wow. Jeez.
The next week, all these people flew in from other cities, label heads.
It's a buzz. Yeah.
It's a buzz. They're all coming in to see what's going on and check it out for themselves. Now, the local labels, they all knew about what was happening, but, and everybody that worked at the labels were coming down and drinking, but they weren't courting us at all. They were just coming down because it was a fun place to hang.
They probably had seen you before, right?
They had, yeah. They knew what was going on, but they didn't have any interest in signing us. Well, as soon as these people, Rounder Records and Geffen Records and these people from out of town come in, that got the attention. Well, why are these people in town? Oh, they're going to see that band in the boot store. Well, really?
Oh my gosh.
So that week after the Billboard article, our heads were spinning. We were being taken out to eat and wined and dined, and it felt dirty, but it was really, it felt slimy and weasel record label stuff. But it was fun. But also we realized, we've heard all this before, and I didn't have faith that anything was going to happen. Well, the reaction of all the local labels, I think they felt like, well, what if these guys get signed? That doesn't look good on us. If they get snatched away by somebody in LA or New York. So the next week, all the Nashville label heads came out, and they started taking us out to eat and whining and dining us.
Oh my God.
The whole process, I'm again thinking, gosh, it's so fleeting. It could all just disappear overnight. None of this really means anything. So as it turned out, we signed a deal with Arista, and
wow.
And they said, they were ones that said, don't change what you are, do what you do.
Yeah.
It works. The reason it works here in this little boot store is why it can work everywhere.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what we needed to. That was the only thing that we could hear to go along with it. So
what did Robert think about all this? What did the ownership think of
Robert loved it. Robert saw everything happen from the beginning, and he facilitated it, and he grew the business of Roberts along with us. And
nice.
He's as much credit goes to him as any of us, for sure, for what he did. And he was brilliant. And so, it was a heck of a ride. And then when we get the record deal and we record a live record at Roberts, and the irony is we have to leave Roberts to promote this live at Roberts.
Yeah, right. So whose idea was it to record a live album at this place where all this magic's happening? I mean, it makes sense to do that, but it's kind of a far-fetched notion for your first record.
Right. So we had been recording in the studio even before we got the record deal. Our idea was like, we're going to make a record, or, make recordings ourselves. And so we started doing that phone album before, and then we get the record deal, and we've got all these tracks in the can. And I think it was somebody at the label said, well, let's put out a live, like, you're getting all this buzz about being this live band at this little place. Let's capture it. And again, we knew we were going to leave, so I think that was part of it. It was like, let's record it while we're here.
What was the material like at that point? Was it original songs? Was it covers? Was it?
It was a mix, but I mean, it was a lot of covers. It was,
we
always did original music in that style, but you can't just do your own songs, because people want to hear Johnny Cash, and they want to hear Johnny Horton, and they want to hear Elvis, and they want to hear those things. So to play for tips and to play a full night, we weren't just doing our own material.
Right.
So totally. It was a lot of oldies, and playing for tips, you're doing requests. So people want to hear that song. And that was another fun thing, was it kept us on our toes musically, because we would get these off the wall requests, and we'd have a go at some of them. And sometimes we'd fall on our face right in front of the crowd, but the crowd loved that, because we were working without a net. And when it came together, and we were like, oh, we've never done that song before, but we'll give it a whack. And oh wow, that was great. The crowd responded to that, because we did that, and so somebody would give us a $20 bill and do I Feel Good by James Brown.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, well, we'll try it. And
that's
and
stellar.
Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, but that was one I remember doing, I Feel Good, and it was great. And
that's killer.
And it wasn't the best version of I Feel Good, but people appreciated it and had a good time, and it was exciting,
Was there board recordings of your typical show? Was there like somebody capturing any of the original shows at all?
No.
In any way? Yeah, it was just straight up. Yeah.
This was in the 90s, and that wasn't as easily accessible. It probably it wasn't that. Now there might have been. Here's what happens: is occasionally people coming through might have had a video camera and recorded a half hour or 45 minutes of us.
Nice.
With that kind of lo-fi kind of thing, which is a neat snapshot to discover. But not
No archiving of.
no, we weren't recording shows like
Yeah.
bands can do today.
Right.
So it was unique for us to go in there and have proper audio gear and record those. That Live from Roberts album is it was all recorded there at Roberts. It's all live. And
so how was that marketed that night? I'm curious. Did people like your regulars know it was going down? And
yeah, we recorded a few nights.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And we were kind of throwing it out there like, we're not going to be here forever. We're heading out pretty soon. We didn't know a hard date. We didn't necessarily know. It turned out to be the end of April. I believe Live from Roberts came out April 30th, and then we hit the road.
Wow.
But, yeah, and then but the times playing every night, long shows live in front of a crowd and taking requests and being on, having to think on our feet and everything, prepared us to go on the road and play.
Oh yeah, God, yeah.
To be in different situations, and whether you're playing live on the radio show or you're going to your clubs or your boot scoots or college campuses or county fairs, we were in all these different environments, and playing those long shows at Roberts set us up for that. And Gary Talent from the East Street Band was living in Nashville at the time, and he came in and he was a regular at Roberts when they weren't on the road. And he said, you guys are, he said, everybody else in Nashville wants to do showcases and they'll only play every couple months because they don't want to burn out. He says, you guys take over a bandstand and play every night. That's the way to do it. Like other people don't get it. You're doing the right thing. And it hit me that's what Bruce Springsteen and those guys did in Jersey. They took over a bandstand and played every night. And
yeah.
And that prepared them to go on the road and all those different environments. So that was some wisdom early on that hit me that Gary Talent shared with us that was really
nice. Yeah.
So I always share that story because he was
the club Springsteen played at. It was the something horse. What was it called in Jersey?
Stone Pony, I believe.
Stone Pony. That's right. Stone Pony. Yeah.
I'm not an expert on that stuff. They may have played other clubs.
Yeah.
But that's a famous one that
they were there a lot. Yeah. That was
had a residency maybe,
that was their Roberts, I think, for a while.
Yeah. That's what he was kind of alluding to, was like, yeah, you guys get it. That's what you got to do. And
that's awesome.
That was nice to hear.
Yeah. Super cool. And at this time, the label kind of hooked you up with like a manager and a booking agent, I would assume. We're talking like late 90s here, like 96, 97, I guess.
Yeah, 95, 96. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So we didn't have a manager when we signed the record deal.
Okay.
And when we went through that process, I found out later that early stages that the label was kind of managing us. They were doing the duties that our manager would turn out to do later.
Okay.
And they were great. And then we interviewed a bunch of managers and we agreed with Barry Coburn to manage us, and he had managed Alan Jackson.
Oh, great.
And, great guy. He's from New Zealand originally, but a Nashville guy, and had connections overseas a lot. So that was something we saw as a positive outlet for us to we would see these European tourists come into Nashville, and they just loved American culture and Americana and loved the old music, and we were like, oh, we need to play over there and get over to there. So with that, with Arista having reaches overseas and Barry having connections in Europe and the UK, that was a big reason for him.
Nice. And how was that when you went overseas? Did you do that tour quite a bit or no?
We did a lot. Yeah, we went over a lot. And,
I could see that. Yeah.
It was really great. We did a bunch of press first, and then we did kind of a residency at a place called the Borderline in London, where let's do Roberts there, and build it up over multiple nights, and it worked. And then we went back the next time and did the Shepherd's Bush Empire, a much bigger theater, and just tried to amp it up each time.
Yeah, yeah.
Got to appear on Later with Jules Holland TV show.
Oh yeah.
And that really took it up a notch. And I did not realize how popular that show was at the time. When we did it, it was a cool show, and it was really neat experience. But seeing how many people it reached over again, before the internet. I mean, the internet existed, but it wasn't like we utilize the internet now.
Yeah. Just email and basic websites. Yeah.
We got our feedback the following 3 days, following 10 days, the following 20 days from, the different cities we'd go to. We'd go to these shows, and where we were playing these medium-sized places, we did later with Jules Holland, and then we're playing bigger places, and everybody that's coming is like, we saw you on the show, and we got to check you out, and we bought your album. And
nice.
You get that immediate, not immediate, not like the internet. You get that feedback that's personal and from these people, and you see how you're reaching these folks. And
the slow trickle of fandom, right? Yeah, it comes in from those marketing things. Yeah.
I realize I got to plug in my computer. It's about to die. So.
Oh yeah, do it to it. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Actually, while you're doing that, I can share this. We'll look at some of these awesome photos of BR5-49. This is just a few of them. Look at this. I mean, to see Jay play was one of the more fascinating things. He was I'm gonna use the word twitchy. You were a twitchy, just
true
Duracell powered, upright bassist that was just your energy was second to none. I mean, you were I've watched some of the live footage of you play, and it's cool. There's like a line in the sand that if you're not the front man, the other players have to sort of abide by to not to steal the eye. But you did. To me, you really stole the show as an upright bass player.
Well,
I mean, you were more vibrant than most of the players in the band, in my opinion.
I'm going to say all five of us were equally at that.
Is that right? Yeah.
You could watch you could watch any one of us and be entertained.
Perhaps it was the more recent video I saw, and it was a morning show, and I think you arrived at 3:30 in the morning for
that was Good Morning America. Good Morning America.
Good Morning America, and you were just on fire.
Oh well.
And the other guys must have been tired or something. I don't know.
We were all tired, but that was really exciting. And again, pre-internet, like, oh my gosh, we're doing David Letterman. Oh, we're on Good Morning America. We're doing these shows, Conan O'Brien, and these shows where it was, you realize like, oh, we played every night in this little honky tonk in Nashville for 3 years.
Yeah.
And we're going to go in this TV studio and play for 3 minutes, and we're going to reach more people. We're going to reach more people's eyes and ears in this 3 minutes than we did in 3 years.
Wow. Yeah.
At this little club.
Yeah.
That starts, okay, we got to bring it.
Yeah.
Here we are.
Your peak energy, right? Yeah.
So that, in that sense, it was a lot of fun, and I'm not going to say there was no pressure. I mean, we felt the pressure of it, but
I'm sure.
We also looked at it like we do what we do, and that's all we can do. So let's have fun.
When you did like the David Letterman show, for those curious out there, I think they have you play multiple songs, right? Or do they tell you which one they're going to keep and say, well, this is the one you're going to keep, go give it to us now? Because that would be kind of pressure,
Yeah, no, we had a single out. We're doing our single.
Okay.
We're doing this song. This is one we're on the radio, and this is our song. So the first time we did Letterman, we knew what song we were doing. We did it one time, and it was it. And that's what we wanted. We wanted that song out there. The second time was unique because it wasn't a straight up just here's the band and we did our song. It was a part of a whole segment they did with Biff Henderson, and he came to Nashville, and when we made up songs for our situation and played, so we did about 12 songs. As they had some comedic elements to them, and that was really great exposure for us too. But it wasn't the typical, ladies and gentlemen, here's the Black Keys, and they do their song.
I gotcha. Yeah.
So I felt really fortunate that we got to do the traditional appearance at the Ed Sullivan Theater and do our song. Then we got to do this thing that was a little more like David Letterman and funky and weird and dark comedy kind of thing, So
That's amazing. So we had a question come in here. So what do you see successful clubs doing who have made it through the pandemic? That's interesting.
Well, that's not an easy question to answer.
No, it's not.
Boy. So everybody had to shift everything during the pandemic and had to reinvent, from musicians to clubs to restaurants. I don't know how restaurants do it. I feel like it's really razor thin to keep a club or a restaurant in business in the perfect of times, to have this thing where you can only have a fraction of your clientele, that you're killing them. There's no way. So from musicians on down to club owners to every step of the food chain is affected by the pandemic, and it choked us off, and it crippled the whole industry.
Yeah.
So I feel like it definitely, as a fan and a patron, it weeded out some of the places that weren't thriving in the first place, because they weren't going to make it through this. If you made it through the pandemic as a club owner, as a club, that is a credit to your business and where you're at from there. So like I said, there's not a magic answer to how it worked, but I feel for everybody that lost their employment, and it tightened up everything
for sure.
Around. So that's
crazy times, man. That's very strange. And then one of the reasons I started this talk show, really, because I wanted to put the highlight on different artists and what they're doing during the pandemic. So so here we are. You guys are at the peak of your success as BR5-49. As a group, what's happening at this point? Like what's the vibe within the group, in the bus rides and the van rides, the plane rides? What's going on in your head here?
It was too much to process.
Was it really
5 years
too fast?
We just went every day, all day. You wake up, you go to a radio station, you perform, you meet everybody. You're trying to get you're in this new city. You go and you talk to them. Typically in the late mornings, we would do phone interviews and press for upcoming shows that are coming up, in the next couple weeks. You're talking to these people. Then you go do an in-store performance at the, at that time, the CD store, the record store there in town. And the whole time you're promoting, the reason you're in town. We're playing tonight at Knickerbockers or Guitars and Cadillacs or whatever.
Yeah.
So then you get to the sound check and you get everything as good as you can for the show that night. And typically you got to meet radio station people and meet and greets before you play. And then you play your show. And then we would meet everybody that wanted to stick around afterwards and, hopefully buy a t-shirt or a CD and we would take pictures with them. And
that's a long day, man.
It's a long day. It's the hardest job I've ever had in my life.
Yeah.
And it was the best job I've ever had.
Yeah.
It went like that for years, and just constant travel. We went all around the world and played. And so on one hand, we were wildly successful. We did everything I could have dreamed and more than I could have dreamed about. On the other hand, we didn't sell that many records. We're a blip. There's plenty of people who've never even heard of us, and that's fine. But
you had an exponentially better career than like 99% of bands.
Oh my God, it was better than I could have ever.
Yeah.
Dreamed it to be.
And the history of it is so thick on who you got to play with and all that.
When I say there's too much to process, it was coming at us at that rate every day, and we were meeting our heroes, and we were playing these shows, opening for these legends, and meeting up and coming bands that would go on to be big and famous later.
Yeah.
And in the moment, I couldn't process it all.
Wow.
So there are things now, 25 years later, something will come up and so-and-so's picture comes up and I'll be like, oh yeah, we played a show with that guy. And oh yeah, that band I knew her. She, or I won't even remember it, but a picture will come up and it's like, oh, here we are with the Dixie Chicks. Oh yeah. Oh, I forgot that we even did a show with them. And
my God, that's so bizarre.
And they weren't famous yet. They were starting out and doing their thing. And so things like that happen, that things have to spark memories for me. So you talk about Facebook, like I get up every morning and I just start typing. It's
unreal.
It's therapy for me. And as I start typing, memories come up and fall out, and other things will come up and trigger memories. And I'll, we did this. And then I journaled a lot through my time, and I would write things down.
Nice.
So there are certain things that come up that like, oh gosh, I don't even really remember that. And then there's other things that as I start typing, it comes to like, oh yeah, and this happened, and that, and this guy was here, and we met them, and so it was overload, sensory overload for years.
It's like the greatest dream that kind of comes back in different parts of your day or something like that. So What was your favorite tour mate that you guys toured with? What was your favorite band that you toured with? Well, that's probably a loaded question, but
tough. Okay, so I'll give you two answers. My favorite was Brian Setzer, doing the Brian Setzer Orchestra.
Nice. Yeah, I bet that was cool.
That, just as a fan and getting to be in that orbit was, we went all the way, it was all around America, but all around the country with him and played so many shows. And just, I was in heaven every night, just being in that world. And it was just amazing.
Yeah.
Now we did a full tour with Bob Dylan, and that was mind blowing. I'm a fan of Bob Dylan, sure, but it was just more the scope of like the fame of Bob Dylan is this thing that
mystical character. Yeah.
Yeah. And the idea that I didn't realize this until I was in that world was everybody and their brother wants to get to Bob Dylan. They all, Bob needs to see this painting I did. We've got this fundraiser and we need to get Bob Dylan to do, and they come to me. Can you get this to Bob?
Oh, geez.
Even though I did have access, it was like
maniacal.
No.
Yeah, dude, I'm not doing that.
And it came at me constantly. And
oh my God,
I'm the bass player in the opening band.
Yeah, right.
Like, what does Bob Dylan have to deal with?
Even imagine being in his band, like Sexton or one, some of the guys in his band. It's like that's got to be maniacal for them too.
Oh yeah, and so it's this constant wave of people, and I feel for Taylor Swift or people that attain this level of fame.
Yeah,
that they have to. I can't even imagine what they have to go through in that sense. I got a tiny little sliver of it, and it was too much.
Oh, wow.
And I'm just the bass player in the opening band. I'm nobody.
Yeah, unbelievable.
And so in that sense, that was eye-opening to see that.
I'm sure.
World. And now Donnie from our band is with Bob Dylan.
Is he? Oh, yeah, that's right. Okay.
He's been with Dylan since 2006. So
wow.
He experiences that just like you just mentioned. He's in the world, and
that's crazy. I just put two and two together on that. That's so wild. Crazy, man.
Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome. That is crazy. Yeah, man, that's so Dylan just came to Lincoln and played Pinewood. Oh boy, somebody help me. I think it might have been last summer. But yeah, there was, just the restrictions backstage from friends of mine who worked at, they're just insane, like nobody even look at him, it's like, it's like one of these, like, don't even, it's just wild. So,
now, and again, to the normal person, that sounds, what a diva, and, it sounds ridiculous, but I do see why that's a thing and why that's place. Like, hey, he wants to come and play a show here, and he doesn't want to be bombarded by 150 people that want his time, and each person has a good reason and a valid point, and it's coming from a good place. Oh, we've got this fundraiser and we really want Bob to be involved, and it's a great cause.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a great cause, but there's 200 other people that have the same request, and I can't imagine dealing with that.
Wow. Did he join you on stage ever, or did he participate with you guys at all?
No, but he was always around and talked with us and really encouraging, and had I don't know, it was neat to see him be a human being, music fan. Like you don't think of Bob Dylan as being a real person. You just, he's this force in your record collection. But to see him, to talk about the Stanley Brothers or, Buddy Holly or, this old music. And he was really fixated on one of our songs that Chuck wrote. And he wanted to know, is that you? Like, is the character in the song you? He's talking to Chuck.
Oh, really?
That was fascinating to be a fly in the wall for that conversation, because
that's cool.
Bob Dylan's been asked many times about the characters in his song, and he's quick to be like, it's a song, I don't know, it's who you want it to be, and I've seen him be that way in interviews and be dismissive, and to see him come at Chuck with, who's this character? Is this you? And what is, he had this connection. It was called Lifetime to Prove was the song. And he was fixated on it and wanted to know more about it. And
that's amazing.
That was really neat to see. And I've always said that in my other stories. I talk about meeting our heroes and finding out that they're music fans.
Right.
Think about these people in the same sense that you and I come home from work and we put on an album and we want to escape and listen to this record. And you think about that. And then you meet these heroes of yours and you find out that, they have records and they're exploring new music just like we are, and they're turned on by things and turned off by things, and it humanizes them to
totally, man. That's awesome. That's how it was when I played with Willie Nelson. My wife and I played with Willie recently, and it's been quite a few years, actually, back in 14 or 15, I think it was. But he's just a dude, he's just a fella. And he had lovely comments. He's saying, your band was really great. And, and it was just really just like, what? Holy shit.
But you don't think about Willie Nelson as a human being. And
no, not at all. He's more of a shaman, really.
Yeah. And he's a guy, and he's funny, and he's, So it's I don't know. It was heartening to realize that, and to see that we're all just music fans.
That's awesome, man. That is so cool. So this takes us, I don't want to keep you all night. We could talk for hours, but I really, really want to talk about your current position at the Musicians Hall of Fame in Nashville. Now, this is really cool. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So I'm the Multimedia Archivist at the Musicians Hall of Fame.
That's crazy cool.
It's nerdy heaven for me. I love it.
Yeah, for sure.
We honor musicians and sidemen and women of all genres of music. We're in Nashville, but we're not just country music. We have an amazing collection. Joe Chambers started the museum, and we have this amazing collection of artifacts and instruments that were used on hit records. So stuff from Sun Records in Memphis and Stax Records in Memphis, and Muscle Shoals sound in Alabama, and Motown stuff, and Wrecking Crew stuff out of Los Angeles, and
oh my goodness,
stuff from Atlanta and Chicago, and there's a whole Jimi Hendrix section, and there's a whole interactive part with the Grammy Gallery where you can play and mix and DJ and sample, and it's just amazing. So there's our website, and so when you come to Nashville, you want to set aside a little time to go through this gigantic museum, and it's all types of music, and it just really it's for musicians, to honor musicians, and it's I can't put it into words. I can't do it justice. You just got to come see it.
That is unbelievable. I can't wait to see this.
Yeah.
I got to ask you, because there's a Nebraska connection. do you know a fella named Garth Fundis?
I do.
Okay. So Garth Fundis played in my father's band.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he did. The Smoke Ring back in 1968, 69.
Wow.
Yeah, and they recorded at Jack's Tracks.
Yeah.
And well, they recorded at Sam Phillips Studio, but I believe Garth started working for Jack. Cowboy Jack. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so there's this, Jack Clement.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's this crazy history. In fact, Pinky, my dad, he just wrote a little lovely note. He said, loving this. So he's listening right now.
Hey, Pinky.
Yeah. So he's out there in Fremont, Nebraska, about an hour north of me. So, but Garth has a crazy history. He started working at the studio, and then he just kind of fell into the right pocket, and he started producing his own acts, and he discovered Trisha Yearwood that you mentioned earlier, and Garth Brooks, and the band, was it Garbage? They were the rock band, I believe he discovered. Yeah, crazy history with that guy.
I didn't know that little wrinkle. That's amazing.
Yeah, that was his like rock adventure. Yeah. So
there's a guy named Alan Reynolds.
Yeah.
Who was he took over Jack's Tracks. I think he bought the building and the studio from Cowboy Jack, and Garth I know was working with him in that transition as well. And then as he got busy doing producing, then Mark Miller came in and kind of took over a lot of the engineering stuff. And as Garth, I remember Mark Miller telling me that when Garth started getting busy and it couldn't do his kind of daily role there anymore, it opened up a lane for him to move into, and he's been engineering on all these big hit records since. But Garth's got a lot of history there for sure. That's
oh my gosh, yeah.
I love the connection to your father. That's really cool.
Yeah, isn't that neat? Yeah, I thought you might get a kick out of that.
We're all connected, aren't we?
Yeah, I know, man. It's so weird. 6 degrees of separation. And I was just reading briefly the site, and I saw Jack's Tracks and the fact that the board is at the museum, I believe. And
we have the main mixing console.
Wow.
Which I was doing a little math in my head, and I think this console would have been after when your father would have recorded.
Okay.
Because was that in late 60s?
Well, see, I don't know if Dad, if you're listening, you'll have to tell us. I don't know if he did any recording at Jack's Tracks or not.
Okay.
I know they were at Sam Phillips Studio in Memphis, and because they worked with Dickie Lee. Yeah, and Dickie actually discovered him because they used to bring Dickie Lee back to Nebraska and sing with and Smoke Ring backed him, and that was this when they were bringing in these celebrities on their own accord, and then they'd sell $2,000 worth of tickets. For that, $2 a ticket, they'd sell 1,000 little ballroom out or whatever, and then they'd bring in all these kind of big names, and like Dickie Lee, who had a bunch of hits, and then the Smoke Ring would open the show, and then they would end up backing the band, and so they would walk with a good chunk of money. And what a great way to make money! That they really did it right. But anyway, Dickie really liked what he heard, and then that they brought the Smoke Ring back to Memphis and ended up introducing them to Sam Phillips. And it was actually Knox who recorded the record, Knox and Jerry. Yeah. But
the Phillips studio, I was just there a couple weeks ago. Did some recording there. And
really?
I'd never been before. I'd been to the Sun Studios, but I hadn't been to Sam's place. And so Jerry showed us through there, and we did a little recording there. But
nice.
But Alan Reynolds, who I just was mentioning, worked with Dickie, and I'd be curious if your dad had crossed paths with Alan even back there in Memphis.
He knows Alan. In fact, there's a connection with their hit song "No Not Much" in some fashion. I can't remember. They were on American Bandstand for us. In '69, but he talks about Alan Reynolds a lot. Yeah, it just says. Just audio, but thanks for the shout out. Dad, what's your connection with Alan Reynolds? If you're out there listening, we'd love to know. I know he's mentioned his name a bunch.
Alan's great and really nice, but Garth is cool, and I didn't know Garth was from your neck of the woods.
He was from Kansas actually, and then and then his connection with the Smoke Ring, they met up, and he joined the band during that time.
Cool.
Some pretty fascinating history with obviously the Nebraska connection into what you're doing too. And you said you were at Sam Phillips Studio. Did you get to see the new board?
Yeah. They showed me that. And They said it came from the old Stax studio.
Gosh, how cool.
Yeah, way cool. And just everywhere you turn in this world, there's so much history and, people that care about it like us that geek out over it and want to celebrate it. And so much stuff is disposable and it's interesting to me with electronics, how it's moving at such a pace now where, this gear is outdated now. We've got this now. It's much better and it does more what you need. And, this old piece is only 3 years old. Well, there's no use for it now. You're going to use this. And it hits me that like we as a culture accept that and we move on electronically. That's part of life now.
Mm-hmm.
But to come across some old recording console, even if it's rewired or reconfigured, to realize like, this is from 1966.
Yeah.
And it sounds killer.
It's great. Yeah.
And it kind of slaps me in the face a little bit like, this works and we celebrate it and it's great. Are we going to have the same reverence for this outboard gear from 2017?
Yeah, right.
From now, my point there. It's not.
Yeah. It's a good question.
Of course, it can make magical music, and we should celebrate it. But just our routine now with electronics is, we move on, and
Yeah, it's a fascinating question, especially when you're talking about the mediums, right? Like from tape to, or reel to reel to tape to CD to DVDs to MP3s even. It's like good Lord, everything's now existing on a cloud somewhere.
Right.
What happens when the cloud goes away? It's a weird conversation. You can really go into a kind of a strange rabbit hole.
When BMG and Sony merged, the record labels, when they merged, they hired me to oversee their vault.
Oh, wow.
Validation.
Oh my.
So as a music history nerd, I was in heaven.
Oh,
it was about a 6-month job, and this was back in 2000. It was just before the museum started, but I was in that world, and it was 2004 or something like that. Well, anyway, all that to say that I go into the vault, and there's shelves of these master tapes from Columbia and what had fallen into Sony, Johnny Cash and Bob Dylan. And
wow.
So I'm going through like, this is the master tapes from Blonde on Blonde, and this is the master tapes.
Jesus Christ.
I'm geeking out over that.
Oh,
it's massive shelves of these reels of tape. Then the thing that was so obvious was, then you come to a single box that housed, again, this is 2004, but housed a hard drive. And this is Taylor Swift's new album, or, this is Gretchen Wilson's new record. And it sits
on a hard drive,
and they have a backup hard drive next to it, but it's two little slim boxes.
Wow.
And you're looking at like, there's 25 shelves full of 2-inch tape that comprise these different projects.
Oh my God, that's fascinating.
Like, let me grab this. And it might have been 3 months worth of recording and work, but it's on a hard drive. So that was really a visual, obvious thing to see, and it put it in perspective that that's where we're at now. And like you say, now would they even have a physical thing in the vault? It's locked in their computer in the cloud, and
Wow, that's unreal. Someday I'll have to pick your brain on some missing tapes that we're looking for from the Smoke Ring days. There's a missing reel that's affiliated with RCA, or they were on Buddha Records, so it changed hands quite a bit.
Right, and I can speak to that as different companies swallow different companies.
Yeah.
They look at it like, we can't keep everything, so there are certain things that we have to.
Yeah.
Let's back up these tapes to a digital format and get rid of the tapes, so that does happen.
Sure.
I say that like I doubt that they just straight up would throw something away, but you know what I mean?
Well, there's thousands, hundreds of thousands of bands. You never know, it's like,
so it is hard to know, but
yeah, it's crazy,
someday,
man.
maybe.
Yeah. Someday, man. That's incredible. So that's what you're doing nowadays. I also noticed, I guess I have to ask, like, do you get out and play? Do you get out and play music?
Yeah. I don't travel.
Sure. Sure.
I did the Memphis thing a couple weeks ago. That was
I saw that.
Simeone.
Yeah,
Joey
man.
Simeone asked me about that a year ago, if I would go do this thing at Graceland, and
wow.
And it was fun, but it was tiring. I'm not a young man anymore. It took it out of me. Last night I played a local gig here in Nashville, and I do session work and do things that, if I want to do it, a guy named Johnny Mack asked me, and he's just did a gig here at the American Legion, and
yeah,
I was like, yeah, that sounds fun. I really like him, and I knew it would be good musically, and so I agreed to do that, and I had a fun time doing it. But no, I have no desire to like go on the road and
of course,
put out an album and do all that.
Do it. You're playing how you've kind of come full circle with the reason you got into it, right?
Yeah.
You're doing it because it makes you feel good.
I hear myself now say that, when I was 20 or 15, all I wanted to do was make a record and go on the road. Like, to hear myself now say that, like, wow, I've come to that point now in my life where I don't want that.
Yeah.
15-year-old me would just be kicking and screaming that I would have that viewpoint, but that's where I'm at.
Wow. That's great. Hey, that's a good place to be, man. Like playing music because you enjoy it. That's really what it's all about. And you see touring bands that get on stage and they're not, and it really affects the vibe, man. It really does.
For sure.
I've seen so many bands that are just burnt out and not wanting to do it and really just kind of going, how the hell can I get out of this? So
it's too bad, but
the
and younger musicians will come to me now and say, like, ask for advice. And I always say, well, what is success to you? And that's a hard question to answer. Well, I want to make it. Well, what's making it? What does that mean?
Yeah.
What's to you? What's making it? So that's, I put that back to kids a lot that ask me that question, because that is a hard question to answer for yourself. What is success? And, well, I just want to be successful. Well, what does that mean? What is your version of that?
Yeah. Define it.
Yeah.
Words of wisdom, man. That's great. That's a great way to put it, for sure. For sure. Well, awesome. I know that people can come to Nashville and they might bump into you. They might not. I don't know if you're roaming about the hallways here at the Musicians Hall of Fame,
Most days
you probably are. Okay, cool, man. Cool. It sounds like a fascinating place, and I personally cannot wait to visit. And
I'll show you some cool stuff. And
man, I'd love it.
If you're at the museum and you see me, say hi. And
absolutely.
And definitely it'll be great.
Yeah, man. And if you can follow his page, I know that it's probably a personal Facebook page at this point, but is there a BR5-49 Facebook page?
Oh, there is, but I just have my own page.
You've just got your own thing. Well, man, it's fascinating to follow you, and I just so appreciate your tidbits of history and how these memories are coming back to you, and they're just, and then you're archiving really what you're doing,
Right.
And hopefully someday you put out a book. Maybe you'll put out a book someday.
Well, I write every day, so you never know.
Maybe you're currently doing that. You just don't know. Well, awesome, Jay. Smilin Jay McDowell in the house, folks. Thank you so much, Jay. This has been one of my favorite discussions. And again, we could probably talk for hours. So maybe I'll hit you up and we'll do this again on a different topic.
You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go dig out some smoke ring.
Yeah, do it to it, man. Yeah. My dad says Alan Reynolds, Knox Phillips, Bob McDill, etc. Were our gang in Memphis. That's what he said. So he was hanging with all those boys.
Right on.
Yeah, man. So there's definitely 6 degrees of separation with us, and just unbeknownst, I didn't even know that. So how cool is that? So right on, brother. Well, we'll bump into you down the road. Absolutely. And much love to you. And thank you so much for this. Can't wait to connect next time. Smilin Jay McDowell, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks, Jay.
Thanks.
All right, guys, that does it for episode 15. What a cool experience this was tonight. Thank you, Jay. My gosh, I can't wait to go back and listen to myself as all the things he referenced and everything. It's just like, wow. Treasure trove, man. Museum, archiving, all these things that we hold dear. He's doing it, keeping it alive. So that's a big deal to me. That means the world to me. That's what I'm all about. So this will be up on the podcast on all major streams soon. Check it out. And yeah, make sure to check out the Nebraska Performing Arts Hall of Fame, Red Rebel Media. Thanks again. KZUM, thanks again. This is good stuff, folks. All right. We'll see you next time. Have a good night, y'all. Wonderful. And guess what? I'm going to play my favorite song for you one more time.
I'm dishing with musicians. I'm dishing with musicians. A talk show about history. I'm dishing with musicians. I'm dishing with musicians. Let's take a stroll down music history.